The pen hovered over the document like a blade poised to strike. "Just provide your signature here." "Old-timer," he said with a casual shrug, as if he were merely asking me to pass the water. The room fell into a heavy silence, not the peaceful kind, but the sort where even the walls seemed to hold their breath. His grin remained fixed, practiced and arrogant. It was the smile of a predator convinced the trap had already snapped shut. I stared at the line. My name was printed neatly at the bottom, a signature intended to wipe me out. I remained silent. Quietness has always been my most lethal tool. The dining hall was built to overwhelm. 20-foot ceilings and a chandelier that resembled shattered lightning. The marble floors were so polished they mirrored your own insecurities back at you. His estate sat atop a hill, glass and steel, looking down on a city he imagined he ruled. My daughter sat to his right, tense, her smile forced. It was the look of someone watching a mistake unfold, but not knowing how to intervene. The staff stood against the walls, hushed observers. They all shared the same thought. Poor veteran. Out of place. A simple mark. I wore my typical charcoal jacket, frayed at the sleeves, the same one I'd worn on the factory floor for decades, the one that allowed me to fade into the background. He poured a vintage wine that cost more than my first residence, and didn't bother offering me a glass. "This is just a formality," he remarked, tapping the paper. "Standard corporate restructuring." He didn't explain the fine print. He didn't feel the need to. He assumed I wouldn't comprehend it. He was mistaken. The paperwork transferred voting authority, closed out minority stakes, and turned solid equity into a hollow shell. It was precise and cold-blooded, crafted by high-priced attorneys, who never guessed their target, could read between the lines. I could feel my own pulse, slow and steady. This was the moment the boundary was crossed. I recalled our first meeting. High-end suit, low-class eyes. He shook my hand with too much force, as if dominance was something you could simply squeeze into reality. "What's your line of work?" he'd asked. "I build things," I replied. He gave a dismissive chuckle. From that second on, he never truly looked at me again. He just looked through me, like I was a piece of decor that came with the property. At family events, he boasted about deals, valuations, and buyouts. He spoke loudly, ensuring I was within earshot. He never sought my counsel. He never realized he already lived by it. I was establishing corporations before he knew how to shave. I was backing startups when banks wouldn't give them the time of day. I learned about leverage through betrayals and men who grinned while they robbed you. I learned one certain truth. True power is hushed. It doesn't announce its arrival. It waits. That night at the manor, the disrespect wasn't noisy. It was surgical. He stood behind me, resting a hand on my shoulder. "Don't fret," he told the room. "I'll look after him." The guests laughed politely. My daughter did not. Something inside me turned to ice. Not out of anger, but out of finality. I picked up the pen. He leaned in, hungry for the win. The kill was inches away. Instead of signing, I placed the pen back down. I reached into my coat, pulled out my smartphone, and sent a single text. "Is there an issue?" He frowned. "No," I stated, looking him in the eye for the first time. Just perfect timing. The first alert came before the final course. His device buzzed. He brushed it off. Then it rang again and again. His composure slipped. "Pardon me," he muttered, moving away. I stayed put, calmly folding my linen. The third call forced his hand. I watched the color vanish from his face as he listened. "Yes, I'm at the house." "What do you mean the board has gathered?" The silence that followed was thick and satisfying. He shot me a glance, a spark of annoyance not yet understanding. He hung up and forced a smirk. "Small glitch. Let's finish our meal." But the atmosphere had shifted. The walls felt tighter. My phone buzzed once. One word: confirmed. I excused myself and stepped onto the terrace. The city sparkled below like a motherboard. Behind me I heard the shouting start. "What do you mean, frozen assets? Why is the CFO involved?" A door slammed. I smiled. For years, I stayed quiet while I gathered something far more lethal than cash: patience. 51% isn't just a statistic. It's gravity. Everything bends toward it. He had built his empire on my funds, my connections, and my silent consent. He viewed me as a passive investor. He thought my silence was ignorance. I never bothered to correct him. That night, I triggered safeguards I'd put in place. Years ago, board members who were in my debt, clauses hidden in contracts, and a structure that shifted control the moment unethical behavior was detected. And tonight, he'd handed me the smoking gun, forged documents and recorded arrogance. I didn't have to break him. I just pulled the floor out from under him. The mansion erupted into chaos. He charged onto the balcony, eyes frantic. "What did you do?" he hissed. I took a sip of water. "I accepted your invitation." "This isn't a joke," he snapped. "The board just suspended me." "It's permanent," I clarified. He tried to laugh, but his voice cracked. "You don't even know what you're saying." I turned my screen toward him. The corporate registry had updated. My name, majority owner. Valuation, 30 billion. His ego shattered right there. You could see the cracks form. "You're bluffing," he whispered. "I've never lied to you," I said. "You just never bothered to listen." By dawn, he looked smaller, like a man who realized the world wasn't his playground. It was built by someone else. He approached me privately. "I made a blunder," he said. I nodded. "Yes, I can fix this." I shook my head. "No, but you can learn to survive it." He swallowed hard. "Please." That one word felt heavier than all his previous insults. I stepped closer. "You didn't lose your wealth tonight," I whispered. "You lost the right to look down on anyone ever again." I walked away. The final boardroom meeting was short. Glass walls, familiar faces now pretending they'd always been on my side. He sat at the far end, silent, empty, a hollow shell. The vote was unanimous. He was removed without a spectacle. I didn't brag. I didn't gloat. I simply took back what was always mine. Later, my daughter asked why I waited so long. I told her, "Because power revealed too soon only teaches your enemies how to fight it." That night, I went back to my modest flat, brewed some tea, and sat in the stillness. Revenge isn't a shout. It's the sound of a pen hitting paper, a message being sent, and the world finally correcting its course. He thought I was just a worker. He never suspected I was the one who laid the foundation he stood on. And when he told me to sign, I finally did.